Psycholinguistics, Language and Cognition. Introduction. Language is a fundamental aspect of human cognition, enabling communication, thought, and social interaction. Disorders in language function can arise from both neurological and developmental causes, leading to deficits in communication, cognition, and social functioning. Research in psycholinguistics has examined both typical language development and disordered language function, contributing to our understanding of how language is represented and processed in the mind and brain. Historical perspectives in psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistic research has evolved through several waves over the past century. The first wave, the cognitive revolution. The first wave, associated with the cognitive revolution of the 1950s, emerged as a critique of behaviorist theories of language. Behaviorism, dominant in early 20th century psychology, explained language learning as a form of learned behavior shaped by stimulus response, associations, and reinforcement. Thought was regarded as covert subvocal speech. However, behaviorist accounts failed to explain several observable phenomena in language acquisition. For instance, children produce grammatical errors that are never observed in adult speech, and they acquire complex syntactic rules without consistent corrective feedback from caregivers. The cognitive revolution led to the development of theories of language that appealed to hidden internal states and processes as the underlying causes for observable language behaviors. Noam Chomsky and other cognitive scientists argued for mental processes and representations, such as mental grammar and the mental lexicon, to explain language behavior. Transformational grammar demonstrated that sentences could share underlying structures despite differences in surface form, illustrating the inadequacy of behaviorist accounts. Observational learning and the rapid acquisition of syntax further supported cognitive accounts of language. The second wave, experimental psycholinguistics. The second wave of psycholinguistics focused on understanding how humans represent language in the mind and process it in real time. Language is hierarchically organized from phonemes to morphemes, words, phrases, and sentences, and up to the source. Psycholinguistic theories incorporated insights from linguistics, cognitive, psychology, and developmental psychology. Models of word recognition, such as the frequency ordered bin search (FOBS) model and the cohort model, demonstrated how phonological and semantic information in long-term memory is accessed during speech comprehension. The cohort model, for instance, posits that words are activated in memory according to their initial sounds, with competent candidates gradually eliminated as more auditory information becomes available. Partial word exposure can prime semantically related words, showing the dynamic nature of lexical access. The third wave, the rise of the machines. The third wave of psycholinguistics, emerging around 1990, leveraged computational and neural network models to simulate language processes. The computational modeling tradition in psycholinguistics started with flowchart-style models, but quickly evolved into other types of computational systems patterned after real neural networks. These mathematical models have profoundly changed the way psycholinguistics view a variety of language functions, including speech perception, vocabulary acquisition, and word processing, lexical access, normal and disordered reading dyslexia, and sentence processing. Advances in computing allowed researchers to model lexical access, sentence processing, and reading, including dyslexia. The dual rote model of reading proposed both a graphic to phoneme rote and a direct visual rote for accessing meaning. Deep and surface dyslexia can be explained as dysfunctions in these routes. Neural network models such as Siedenberg's triangle model simulate reading behavior by adjusting connection rates between input, hidden, and output units. Virtual lesions and reduced processing units in these models reproduce patterns of dyslexic reading, providing biologically plausible explanations of deficits. Neuropsychological methods such as event-related potentials (ERP) allow researchers to track the brain's rapid response to linguistic stimuli, providing insight into lexical access, reference, and sentence processing. ERP studies reveal that comprehends quickly integrate contextual and speaker information during language processing. Functional magnetic resonance imaging (fMRI) has further mapped language-related areas, including the visual word from area, and has shifted research toward understanding functional connectivity and network coordination across the brain. These approaches help explain how language systems interact with attention, memory, and executive control networks. Psycholinguistics and cognitive deficits in schizophrenia. A schizophrenia is a mental disorder marked by hallucinations, delusions, disordered motivation, and cognitive deficits. Language dysfunction in schizophrenia is closely linked to these broader cognitive impairments. Patients often show deficits in attention, memory, and cognitive control, which refers to the ability to regulate attention and select task-appropriate responses. Misregulation of frontal lobe networks and disrupted connectivity with other brain regions are thought to contribute to these deficits. Language difficulties in schizophrenia often manifest as problems maintaining a coherent topic and producing a speech characterized by loose associations. For example, responses to conversational prompts may include concepts only loosely related to the topic, yet basic aspects of speech, such as articulation and grammar, remain largely intact. Psycholinguistic theories explain this phenomena using the concept of a semantic network. In typical individuals, concepts closely related in meaning are represented near each other in the network. In schizophrenia, however, uncontrolled activation spreads through the network due to deficits in executive control, leading to cluttered mental representations and the inclusion of irrelevant concepts in speech and comprehension. Hypothetically, restoring executive control could improve language function in these patients by reducing irrelevant activations. Psycholinguistics and specific language impairment (SLI). Specific language impairment (SLI) is diagnosed in individuals whose language function is significantly lower than expected based on overall cognitive abilities. Unlike disorders such as Down syndrome, SLI is not the result of general intellectual deficits, brain injury, or other neurological disorders. Genetic factors such as mutations in the FOXP2 gene may contribute to some cases of SLI. Individuals with SLI can experience deficits at multiple levels of language. These include phonological deficits such as difficulty perceiving and differentiating speech sounds, and grammatical deficits such as difficulties producing verb tense, aspect, and agreement markers. The consequences of SLI extend beyond language, affecting social, educational, and economic outcomes. Children with SLI are less likely to initiate conversational exchanges, leading to fewer opportunities to practice language and develop social skills. They are also rated as fewer desirable playmates, contributing to social isolation, which in turn affects behavioral and psychological development. Research indicates that early language problems predict later difficulties in reading, school performance, and employment. Children with SLI are at higher risk for psychological problems, including anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders. Language difficulties may directly cause maladaptive behaviors by limiting the ability to communicate thoughts and feelings effectively. Social isolation can exacerbate these effects, creating a feedback loop in which language deficits and behavioral problems reinforce each other. Conclusion. Language function is deeply intertwined with cognitive, social, and neural processes. Disorders such as schizophrenia and SLI illustrate the consequences of impaired language for communication, socialization, and learning. Psycholinguistic research spanning theoretical, experimental, computational, and neuroimaging approaches has advanced our understanding of both typical and disordered language processing. Translational research applying these findings to treatment and intervention holds promise for improving outcomes in individuals with language impairments. Continuing advances in technology and theory are essential for developing more effective models of language function and for designing interventions that can alleviate the social, educational, and economic disadvantages associated with language disorders.